Today on Locked On Red Wings, a tough slate for Detroit this weekend and updates on both Nate Danielson and Lucas Raymond.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and available wherever you get your podcasts. Scotty, we got a mixed bag of things to talk about on today's episode. We'll give you injury updates on a couple of players here in segment 1, which will then lead us into our game previews for both the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Edmonton Oilers in segment 3. But before we get to any of that, I got to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Scotty, this is, and I want to preface this by saying, I'm not sure if this was the first time Nate Danielson skated with the Griffins, but it was the first time that it has been reported on that I had seen, reported on by our friends over at Hockeytown West podcast. Nate Danielson was on the ice with the Grand Rapids Griffins in a non-contact jersey. So that is the first time we as Red Wings fans at least have seen Nate Danielson, or at least heard of Nate Danielson on the ice since he got injured in that preseason game. And while he's still in a non-contact jersey, which would imply that he's still a little bit away, him taking part in practice and drills means that he is working his way back onto the ice and then hopefully into game action. And I think the conversation here to be had with Nate Danielson is this is a player that was pretty dang close to making the opening night lineup prior to the injury taking him out and ending up getting usurped by MBN and Emmett Finney possibly. It's also possible he would have made the team too and they would have waived somebody else. We don't know because it didn't happen. But the question here is when he is healthy and assuming his performance in Grand Rapids is what we expect it to be, how long is it till he cracks the NHL lineup, and in what fashion will he do so?
Yeah, I think the latter is a really interesting question, just because the conversation between us on this show all summer was they don't want him to crack the team just to be, a fourth liner. They don't want him to be on this team just to have his role minimized. And I wonder if that is still the case. And now I don't think they're going to call him up and give him 8 minutes a night. I think that is probably out of the question. But I could see a middle six role, and their second line is set. So that would leave a third line spot for him. I also think that, if we want to get super crazy, you can just throw him at the very top and just see kind of what happens, because not that Finney's been bad or anything. That's been one of the best storylines of the year, but you potentially raise the ceiling a little bit in that regard of what you can produce from there. You also, as we talked about, maybe can move a guy like Kopp or MBN to the top, and depending on what happens with Raymond, and then maybe you can there's a lot of mixing and matching that can happen. I still hold on to the fact that they're not going to call him up to give him 8 or 9 minutes on the fourth line, but I do think that they're for them to call him up and give him 12 or 13 on the third line is probably not out of the question at all. And honestly, as it stands right now,
that's where Kasper started.
Right, especially coming back from injury, I'd say is probably even likely.
Right, and, I look at this roster right now, and if this roster's humming along and they're playing great, it's going to be really hard for him to get that promotion from Grand Rapids, even if he's playing well, right? We saw that with Simon Edvinsson 2 seasons ago. He had his fair share of struggles as well, but Simon Edvinsson was probably down in Grand Rapids longer than he needed to be, especially late in the season before he finally made the lineup after the new year. But with Nate Danielson, I'm looking at this roster and I see holes. I see spots to be filled even with a full roster, right? Even with 23 players, I see players that could be placed on waivers, moved on from, and Nate Danielson being an upgrade at that position. And like you said, it's pretty much all throughout the top 9. I don't want him to play on the fourth line, but right now, I think one of your biggest holes that's not the top line left wing, even though Emmett Finney's doing a really nice job filling in there. He's doing a great job filling in there, but you're still looking for at this point, a long-term solution there. It's way too early to say Finney's that solution.
For sure.
I think the other biggest hole is fourth line center. And Michael Rasmussen in the fourth line had a much better performance in this last game against the Florida Panthers. They actually had a really, really good game. But I think at this point, Michael Rasmussen has more so proved himself to be a winger, and a decent depth winger at that, rather than a center where he struggles in the faceoff circle and struggles in that much more flexible position that is center. It's way more demanded of you, even in fourth line role. So if you can bring Nate Danielson in and he can play, like you were saying, on the third line wing or maybe even third line center, you can move a Comfer or a Kopp down to play fourth line center.
Exactly what I was going to go with that. I think why not have Danielson be 3C and then have Comfer be your 4C? That sounds wonderful.
And well, one of the big arguments with having Comfer and Kopp on the same line is, well, you have a left-handed center and a right-handed center that can switch on and off depending on where the faceoff is. Well, Danielson is a right-handed center, and that's a great way to ease him into the center role at the NHL level, is playing with someone like Kopp, who's so dang good at winning faceoffs,
Right.
Be a great mentor to that two-way game that he's already very strong at. So I think that Danielson, with him and Kopp on the third line, and again, two-way game, so it would fit what that line's trying to do. Of course, I would worry about putting two rookies on the same line. I also would worry about the type of usage that line is getting. It's not a lot of offense with that line. It's mostly used as a matchup line, as we've seen. But for me, it's a surefire way of getting him in the lineup. Of course, you would need to move on from somebody, but I mean, if you waive Berggren or Soderblom, and Soderblom, I would really. I don't want to waive either of them because you risk losing them, and I think both players would probably pretty easily get picked up by a team that's willing to take a flyer and a guy with a lot of skill, right? Both those guys are skilled guys. It's just you're betting on somebody with a higher upside. That's where it gets a little bit harder.
Why wouldn't you just boot another defenseman?
You could do that as well. You're still carrying, 7 defensemen?
Mm-hmm.
There's not 8. Well, that's why you would want to keep carrying 7. Right now you have 14 forwards. You won't want to carry 15 forwards.
Yeah, I guess 15 forwards.
It has to be a forward at this point.
Right.
But
that's fair.
It makes sense. It's just if the team looks like they need that extra boost, right? If the team's not humming, and then, of course, barring any injury, that's how he would make the roster. And then, of course, like you said, top line is within the realm of the possibility, depending on how Emmett Finney's performing in that role. That's how Dylan Larkin started, top line wing, playing next to Henrik Zetterberg. So just because he's a center doesn't mean he can't play wing. And there are a couple of opportunities, I think, in the top 9 for him once he gets healthy. And I just think that's it. When he's healthy, that's where the opportunity lies. But again, he has to earn it. He has to not just push his way onto the roster, but push somebody off the roster. Again, barring injury. And, if an injury happens, that makes it easier, but.
For sure. I think it's also interesting the timetable of that, right? Like, he's in a non-contact now. He's going to want to, obviously they are going to get him back to a point where he's a full participant in practice. Then he is going to get eased into Grand Rapids lineup and play there. And not only does he have to then prove that he is healthy and whatnot and is fully up to speed there, you're also then talking about him. As you just mentioned, you have to prove that you're healthy and you have to play well enough to force your way onto the roster. This really, to me, seems like at earliest, 2 months still down the road. I don't think all of those things is happening in a couple of weeks. That.
No, it's
that
months,
really
I think.
Feels like a slow rollout kind of thing. And again, as we've said a lot with Danielson over the summer is they don't want him to be a yo-yo player, obviously, right? Like that when they call him up, they want to be sure that there is a spot for him and that he is ready himself play-wise, and the injury adds a little bit of a wrinkle to that already kind of fragile situation, I'll call it. So yeah, I don't expect this to be resolved before, December, even nonetheless, over the next couple of weeks. But it will be interesting to watch because I in that same breath, I really do think we see him this year.
Yeah, I 100% lockstep with you. It's probably a couple more weeks until he's game ready for the Grand Rapids level, and then you're going to have to get him up to speed at the Grand Rapids level before, as you put it, they're convinced he's ready for the NHL. I think he isn't ready for the NHL. once he's healthy, but it's all about timing. It's all about timing with this type of situation. But it's great to see him back on the ice. We extrapolated, and probably way too early on a lot of this conversation, but it was just excited to see him back on the ice, skating with Grand Rapids. Scotty, let's go to a break. When we return, we'll talk about the Raymond situation, and that will lead us into our Tampa Bay Lightning game preview. Stay tuned for that. Segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I myself scored some Detroit Red Wings Sergei Fedorov retirement night tickets through Game Time. Again, was able to sift out the best price for the section that I was in, thanks to the all-in pricing tool as well that makes sure all the prices are up front without any hidden fees. It's a great way. Those zone deals are such a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and save you big. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Scotty, segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Just a quick update on Lucas Raymond, and the update is literally that he is still day-to-day.
There's no update.
The update is there is no update. He will not play against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Mason Appleton still practice on that top line. With him, it's just he'll be ready when he's ready. But we will continue to give you the latest on Lucas Raymond as we await more word on his progress. But as of right now, he is still day-to-day. Mason Appleton is still on that top line. Scotty, with that being said, the Detroit Red Wings hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning on Friday night, tonight by the time people are listening. It's actually really funny. I think yesterday's episode, I said, the Red Wings have a very tough 5 games to start the season. Montreal, Toronto, Florida, Edmonton. And I completely forgot that there's actually 6 really tough games. Tampa Bay is between Florida and Edmonton. I completely forgot the Tampa Bay game and just thought that Edmonton was Friday. Edmonton is Sunday. Tampa Bay happens in between. So we have to preview a Tampa Bay game before we can preview the Edmonton game in segment 3. We know John Gibson is the starter. We've already gotten confirmation of that from Todd McClellan. So it'll be Gibson's second start. A chance for him to kind of get back in the good graces of the fan base after what was a pretty difficult first game, which we admit wasn't all on him, but he also was not part of the solution either. Scotty, Tampa Bay Lightning, even though they're off to kind of a tough start, 1-3-1, I think, still a really good hockey team you can't underestimate.
Yeah, of course. And we talked about that a lot leading up to this season. And we talked about that a lot in our preview, our season preview, that is. Maybe not a team that's gotten off to a great start, but still an incredibly talented and incredibly deep roster. I am curious as to the Red Wings' style of play, I guess I'll say, like meshing up with Tampa, just because Tampa is so battle tested, I guess, if you will, and has gone up against teams that, play this more aggressive style plenty of times before, obviously including the playoffs, but just over the years. And it's a really talented core still. And I don't know. I don't really care about the record this early in the season. Like that's still the Tampa Bay Lightning as far as I'm concerned. Yeah,
they've struggled out of the gate a little bit, but their opponents so far have been the Senators, whom they've lost to, looking to be again a playoff team. Or a playoff team last year, had over 90 points, although they just got their doors kicked in by the Buffalo Sabres. The New Jersey Devils, who are looking to bounce back and be a playoff team yet again. Their one win comes against the Bruins, who obviously are a team that you expect to be at the bottom of the division this year, and then they lost in overtime to the Capitals. So the games that they've lost have been against quality opponents, so it's not something that you want to, go, oh, well, the Tampa Bay Lightning are cooked. I mean, I picked them to win the division this year, and I think they're still a very good hockey team, regardless. And all the analytics back that up too, Scotty, right? They're currently a top 12 power play. I'm sorry, 12th in the PK. Red Wings sit 10th right now, and their power play is 5th, where the Red Wings is 6th. So kind of like with the Florida Panthers, they're slightly above you in all special teams at the moment. Where they are struggling is actually at 5-on-5. If I recall correctly, they're listed at 28th right now with shot attempt share, 44%. That is really, really drastic. So they're struggling at 5-on-5 right now. So while this is a team that's struggling and the Red Wings have an opportunity to like continue this hot win streak, remain hot, and build upon their strong start in a difficult stretch to begin the season, again, I just keep going back to this is a good team that's off to a tough start. Do not underestimate them. And as you put, don't put a lot of stock in what their stats say through a sample size of 4 games, because they're 1-2-1, not 1-3-1. I was incorrect.
For sure. Well, and I mean, so far this year, one of the biggest, or maybe the biggest Achilles heel for them has just been they haven't gotten very good goaltending. And I'm, who's to blame? Chicken or egg? Is it the goaltending? Is it the defense? Is it both? But for a team that has been just fantastic in that for the better part of a decade, that's something that I don't want to say assume will iron itself out, because obviously stuff changes year to year. But that's, them having a team save percentage of .871, I'd imagine, again, 4 games in, I'd imagine that's not something that'll stay down there forever.
Well, especially when one of your goaltenders is Andrei Vasilevsky. He's got an .870 right now, which is not great, but Andrei Vasilevsky has too much track record for him to continue to struggle like this. But if you're the Red Wings and you're looking to take advantage, the biggest thing you can do is just keep building on your game, right? This is a team that's struggling. You've had one real bad game. It's funny, one real bad game that you won, one decent game that you got blown out of. But keep building on the play style you're trying to accomplish. Stay heavy on the forecheck. Keep on them, because right now, if they're playing poorly, you have an opportunity to really, really dig your heels in and stretch this win streak to 4 games. So for me, it's all going to come back down to that 5-on-5 play. These two teams' special teams are very good. It's going to be, how do you play at 5-on-5 against a team that's struggled through 4 games so far at that? And then also, can John Gibson bounce back and be solid in net like we think he can be?
Sure. Yeah, 100%. And that's, I think, maybe the biggest question for me going into this game, right? We've talked about it a lot over the last week and a half, and I think, week and a half. We're a week and a half into the season. Yeah. We've talked about it a lot, is just how, again, you're 4 games in, you're 3-0 with Cam Talbot, and he's played in all 4 games like that. So maybe not the start that we thought we were going to have in terms of goaltender, but this is something I really wanted to talk about yesterday a little bit more in depth. So I'm glad we have an off day now to do it. This is awesome that Cam Talbot has been so good, and it's awesome that you're winning hockey games with him in net. We also have to remember that this literally happened last year, and it will end. He's another year older than he was last year even. And that is what happened last season, right? It was like, oh my goodness, Cam Talbot's doing so well at the start of the year. We called him the MVP of the team 2 months into the season. We literally said he was the only reason this team wasn't even worse than they already were at the end of the Lalonde era, right? He was fantastic. And so it's great to see him playing well. I hope that he plays this well for the whole season. But that being said, you got Gibson for a reason. You have to remember that, eventually the wear and tear of the year is going to get to Talbot just like it did a year ago. This is not something that I don't think you can at least plan on lasting for 82 games. So it is still... Again, we're talking very small sample sizes. It's still very important, obviously, for John Gibson to get right. And it is still of the utmost importance, because you got him to play him. Not only that, you got him to be the bell cow. You got him to be the guy that's going to carry a majority of the load. So Get as much out of Talbot as you can. I'm happy for him. I'm glad that he's here. He's doing fantastic. He probably stole us a win already this season, but it is still of the utmost importance that John Gibson gets going. And if he doesn't, then this year is going to get ugly rather quickly, because I don't anticipate Talbot to be this good throughout the entire season.
No, like you said, we've seen it. After a while, the wear and tear of a full season, especially on this defense, has gotten to him. And the defense has been better for the most part early on in this season, but you need Gibson to be able to win you hockey games and give Talbot a rest. So we'll be looking for that on Friday. We're going to head to another break. When we return, we'll talk about the Edmonton Oilers as Connor McDavid and the Oilers come to town. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You're going to love using FanDuel because it gives you so many ways to play. You can build parlays, try player props, and even follow the live lines during the game. It makes watching hockey even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience even better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. We got another game to preview as the Red Wings play both the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Oilers this weekend to finish off this difficult stretch of 6, not 5 games like I thought yesterday. Oilers, back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, so back-to-back Western Conference championships for them. They have Connor McDavid on a shiny new dirt cheap contract that starts next year. And, it's the Edmonton Oilers. They're a really good hockey team. They've got the best player on the planet and then another guy who's top 5 in the planet on their team. They're going to be hard to stop. If you're the Detroit Red Wings, Scotty, what the heck do you got to do?
So, I mentioned it going into the Tampa Bay game about how I was interested in, how this new style of play was going to match up against them. I am extremely interested in how this style of play matches up against a team like the Oilers. And the reason why is because, we've seen already, against Toronto that with this aggressive forecheck and aggressive pressure that the Wings forwards want to put in the neutral zone and in the offensive zone, this is a team in Edmonton that is so fast that if you do that and leave the back door open, you are going to get absolutely obliterated. And that is something, again, we already saw one game where that happened. And Toronto is very talented as well, obviously, and has a lot of really talented and fast players as well. But there probably isn't a more high-powered and fast offense. I guess maybe Colorado when they're all healthy, but this is one of the most dynamic offenses in the entire sport in Edmonton for a reason. And so I'm really intrigued on if this is going to be. It's a decent litmus test of okay, even against a high-powered offense like this, can they still hold it together and produce and win hockey games this way? Or is this maybe something that they, have to reconsider or re-strategize when they play teams that are clearly more talented and faster than them on the offensive side of the puck?
One thing that Detroit's going to have going for them in this situation is that this is a long East Coast road trip for the Edmonton Oilers. They just shut out the New York Rangers in New York on Tuesday. Stuart Skinner, by the way, huge shutout. He actually goalied the New York Rangers in this hockey game. Let me see if I can pull up the exact numbers here. He made 30 saves, a 30-save shutout for Stuart Skinner in that hockey game. Then they're playing New York Islanders on Thursday night, still pending to happen as we're recording this. Then the day before they come to Detroit, they play in New Jersey. So it'll be a second half of a back-to-back for the Edmonton Oilers. So again, where there's an opportunity with the struggling start for Edmonton, you have an opportunity to really attack some tired legs in the Edmonton Oilers playing 3 games in 4 days coming into Detroit. So There's an opportunity here, but you're spot on that with the speed that which this team has, especially Connor McDavid, obviously, if you miss on your opportunities on the forecheck, you will be burned. And we kind of saw that a little bit with Montreal. Montreal's a fast team too. And when they didn't play good fundamental hockey, they got burned pretty hard. So they outchanced the Montreal Canadiens, but they were giving up so many great A's that they scored 5 goals on 13 shots.
Sure. Super fair point.
If you're going to play we're going to outwork you, you better make sure you outwork them. That's what it comes down to.
Do it.
You best do it because if you get caught deep, they're going to burn you.
Right, and that'll be another test for these young rookies as well. ASP and I mean Edmondson, obviously not a rookie, but if that pair stays together, that's a young pair on the blue line with this strategy and this team. It'll be interesting. It'll be a good litmus test. It'll be a good idea to kind of gauge where this team is at with this style of play so far this year.
Man, what a start of the season for Edmonton Oilers. So let's see.
Yeah, dude, they had Connor McDavid signed for $12 million. Like, I'm sure they're all buzzing.
No, what I mean is the first 7 of their first 10 games are on the road.
Oh, well,
that's kind of crazy.
That is kind of crazy.
The schedule's whack this year because of the Olympic break, so the schedule's super condensed. Lots of teams are going on long stretches of the road. I know with the Olympic break, I think the Red Wings play at home like one time in February.
So, well, they only play like 4 games in February.
I know, but it's going to be legitimately like 3 weeks before they see LCA's ice again.
Yeah,
it's a long time. Scotty, do you have any final thoughts on this one?
I don't think so, man. We ball. It'll be hopefully a fun weekend, but a good kind of weekend to set the bar, if you will.
All right. We'll be back with a new episode on Monday. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. Your team every day.